Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're exploring one of the most famous stories in history, the story of Noah's Ark. Now, you've probably heard bits and pieces before, animals marching two by two, the giant wooden boat, the rainbow at the end. But have you ever stopped to ask, what does this story really mean? Is it history? Is it a myth? Or is it something symbolic, something deeper about the human experience? Stick around because by the end of this video, you might just see Noah's Ark in a whole new way. All right, let's get into it. Section 1. The World Before the Flood. So, how does the story begin? With a world in complete chaos. The ancient text says humanity had become violent, corrupt, selfish. Imagine a world where people had basically given up on kindness and fairness. That was the picture. And then, here's the dramatic turn. God looks at this broken world and says, enough is enough. But there's an exception. One man, Noah, described as righteous, someone who walked with God. It really makes you wonder, what kind of person would you have to be to stand apart from everyone else around you? Would we, in his place, have been seen as different too? That's the setup. The world is heading for disaster, but Noah's life is about to change forever. Section 2. Building the Ark. Now God gives Noah a command. Build an ark. Not a little rowboat, not a canoe. We're talking ship-sized. The thing would have been longer than a football field with 3 decks, and built out of wood sealed with pitch. Now, here's a question. Can you imagine that conversation between Noah and his neighbors? Him pounding at this gigantic wooden structure on dry land, and everyone else asking, "Hey, Noah, what are you doing?" And Noah's reply? "Oh, just building a giant boat to survive the world-ending flood." Would you believe him? Or would you laugh? This part of the story isn't just about wood and nails. It's about faith, persistence, and sticking to what you believe in, even if the whole world thinks you're out of your mind. Section 3. The animals come in. All right, so picture this. The ark's frame is done, the door is open, and suddenly the animals arrive. Not just the cute and fluffy ones we see in children's books, but all kinds. Lions, elephants, lizards, snakes, birds flapping overhead. 2 by 2 they come, male and female, and in some versions, 7 pairs of certain animals. Can you imagine the sight? Noah may not have had a map, but he was suddenly running the world's first floating zoo. And here's where I pause to ask, do you think this was something miraculous that happened literally? Or could it be symbolic, representing the preservation of life itself? Either way, the image is unforgettable. Every living creature finding safety during destruction. Section 4. The Great Flood. And then, it begins. The rain pours down, not for a few hours, not for a weekend storm. 40 days, 40 nights, non-stop. And not only that, the story says the deep waters under the earth burst open too. So water is coming from the sky and from beneath the ground. The waters rise and rise until the tallest mountains are gone. The entire world? Covered. Think about that moment inside the ark, listening as the cries outside fade into silence, sitting in the dark with only the creak of wood and the sound of the rain. That's not just a survival story. That's pure isolation, fear, waiting. And here's the hardest part. It wasn't over in a week. The ark drifted for months. Imagine the smell, the noise, the work of feeding every animal, and the question eating at you. Will this ever end? Section 5. The Dove and the Promise. But then, little by little, things change. The waters finally begin to recede. After months of drifting, Noah starts sending out birds. First, a raven, then a dove. The first time, the dove comes back with nothing, empty-beaked. But the second time, it returns holding an olive leaf. Pause for a second and place yourself there. After everything you've been through, you suddenly hold that tiny sign of life in your hand. How much hope would that give you? Finally, the ark comes to rest on the mountains of Ararat. Noah, his family, and all the animals step off the ark into a completely renewed earth. And then comes the promise. God sets a rainbow in the sky and says, "Never again will the earth be destroyed by flood." A rainbow, something we still look at today as a symbol of peace after the storm. Section 6. Why this story endures. So why has this story lasted so long? Here's the wild part. Noah's Ark isn't just in the Bible. Versions of this flood story pop up everywhere. The Epic of Gilgamesh from Mesopotamia has almost the exact same structure. Gods warn a man, he builds a boat, survives the flood, and sends out birds to search for land. In India, there's the story of Manu. In Native American traditions, there are flood legends, even in China. So what does that mean? Was there really some kind of massive ancient flood that so many cultures remembered? Or are floods such a powerful natural disaster that human beings all across the world built stories around them? That's the big debate. For some, the Ark is literal history. For others, it's a myth carrying deep truth. But whatever your perspective, the story still matters because it's about judgment and mercy, destruction and renewal, and the idea that hope survives even after the storm. Conclusion. So here's the question I'll leave you with. What's the lesson? For me, it's this. Life will always have storms, some big, some small. But just like the Ark, there's always a way through if you hold on to hope and don't give up. The rainbow at the end? It's a reminder that no matter how bad things get, there's always the promise of new beginnings. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this story, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and let me know in the comments. Do you think Noah's Ark really happened, or do you see it as a symbolic story with a bigger message? Either way, it's a story about survival, faith, and hope, and that's something we all need more of today.